Well, gentlemen, you have my curiosity, but now you have my attention.
I'm really interested in what the Amazing Digital Circus is going to end up saying thematically about the relationship between humanity and artificial intelligence. It's one of the biggest hot topics on the internet right now, and I think episode 2, Candy Carrier Chaos, teases it as being at the core of TADC's story. Creator Gooseworks has said that this series is going to be much more focused on character than it is lore and intrigue, and I'm glad to come out of episode 2 with the idea of interesting themes to chew on that go beyond the show's impressive aesthetic and central mystery. The episode centers largely around the classic sci-fi question of what measure is non-human. Lead character Pomni falls in with Gummigoo, an artificial intelligence who accidentally becomes self-aware and goes down an existential crisis. In 2024, the thing that has people like me so vehemently opposed to the use of AI in art and media is, among other things, the lack of human quality to it. The way that it can't quite mimic human emotion or intent, and the really off-putting implications that arise at the idea that it one day might. Or even just that it might get close enough to fool an untrained eye and thus be sufficient for corporate use. With Gummigoo, we see that the digital circus has effectively achieved that mimicry, which raises a lot of questions. What does it say that Gummigoo seems more attuned to human emotion than his creator Caine? Where's the line between mimicry of emotion and actual emotion? Can Gummigoo be said to have a soul, whatever that means? One of the most vital moments of the episode is Gummigoo discovering his and the rest of the Candy Kingdom's models, the thing that sends him spiraling in the first place. Gummigoo is alone when this spiral begins, meaning that there's no chance of his response being for the benefit of an observer, the way currently existing AI only ever expresses the veneer of thought or feeling with outside prompting. For me, though, the most interesting question in the context of TADC as a wider piece is whether more NPCs, or Caine himself, will continue to display this emotional capacity in future episodes, and what's the appropriate response if they do. Pomni clearly connected with Gummigoo on a reciprocal emotional level, and if this promo art and the very special Digital Circus song are taken into account, clearly Pomni still holds some reverence for Gummigoo as a quote-unquote real person after the credits roll. That said, taking episode 2 in a vacuum, I think its final moments form a clear statement on engaging with AI emotionally versus engaging with other real people. To get into that though, I'm gonna have to analyze the rest of the episode for context. See, thing about Pomni in this episode is that she's the only member of the circus who could have had the interaction with Gummigoo that she does. The episode is bookended with this dream sequence of Pomni's fears for what will happen to her in the circus, that she'll one day abstract, but more importantly, that no one will care when she does. It's a fear that has her keeping everyone at emotional arm's length throughout the episode. Despite Pomni's lack of responsiveness, I think her one-sided conversation with Ragatha right after she wakes up is super crucial to this attitude of hers, because it's Ragatha trying so hard to play off the events of episode 1 as something light and inconsequential, when that's not what Pomni needs. Ragatha and Pomni's dynamic the whole episode is fascinating, as something we hear from Ragatha a ways into the story is,
I don't think she really likes me that much.
Which tells us, among other things, that being liked by Pomni is a priority of Ragatha's, possibly a priority bigger than Pomni's immediate mental well-being, even if not consciously. What I mean is, wanting Pomni to like her, wanting to make a good impression and ensure that the events of the pilot are water under the bridge, is what makes Ragatha reduce those events to a doozy. It's what makes her pivot the conversation almost immediately to the next adventure and trying to have a good time. Trying to hype Pomni up and make her feel included. On some level, it is of course for Pomni's sake, but what Pomni needed in the moment wasn't to forget what happened in the pilot and move on to seeing the bright side. What she needed was to confront and process the terrible situation she's in. Ragatha, in her attempts to ensure that she and Pomni are on good terms, denies Pomni that opportunity to process. And she realizes this, I think, when Kinger offers her some perspective, a reminder of just how debilitating it can be to be a circus newcomer. Meanwhile, I think Pomni herself becomes conscious of this need she has when she's given the opportunity to empathize with Gummigoo. Pomni and Gummigoo specifically connect on the feeling of being nothing, and for Pomni this reflects the fear that once she's gone, no one will care. By inviting Gummigoo to be her friend, Pomni is acknowledging that what she needs now in the circus is someone who can relate to her existential dread, who isn't seemingly jaded and eager to move past that feeling the way the rest of the cast are. This idea comes to a head with Gummigoo being blinked out of existence by Caine, and specifically the fact that nobody besides Pomni even reacts. Because for the rest of the cast, Caine included, the NPCs are decidedly not people. Kinger, Ragatha, and Gangle are able to engage with the NPCs casually and enthusiastically, but importantly never beyond the confines of their role in the day's adventure. For them, it's all still just playing the game. Zooble seems loath to interact with the AI at all. Jax very pointedly does not openly care for NPCs or his fellow humans, beyond his capacity to toy with them for cheap thrills and laughs. And Caine, an AI himself, declares it high priority that NPCs and real people never become interchangeable, despite the seeming capacity for it to happen. It's all kinda cold at first blush, but to dismiss it as the whole cast being jaded or ignorant of the potential autonomy of these creations doesn't seem entirely right. I think that's what Pomni realizes when it's suddenly announced that they'll be holding Kaufmo's funeral. She's broken out of her spiral of grieving for an artificial person with the reminder that there's a real person to be mourned, and that there are real people to mourn her and acknowledge her humanity when she needs it. And I think that's going to end up being a key theme of the series going forward. That for as immersive as AI may one day become, for as much as we may become endeared to creations like Gummigoo, or see the potential in them to become analogous to something real, we shouldn't let that potential blind us to the real people who already exist around us. In the end, Caine is right to want to keep NPCs out of the circus, because it's a slope of potentially snake oil or slipperiness to live a life where you're as or more concerned with digital creations as you are with those who can truly relate to you in a way that you need. And that's not to say that there's no place whatsoever for AI or for things like Gummigoo. What Gummigoo really was, narratively, was a tool to help Pomni realize the emotional space that she needed in order to accept her fellow circus mates. It's only because Pomni was able to talk to Gummigoo, was able to acknowledge that a friend is something that she wants, that she can now potentially find that friend in people like Ragatha, Gangle, Kinger, or Zooble. Not Jax though, screw that guy. Under the map, Pomni says,
I think I know the feeling. Well, maybe not the exact feeling.
But what we realize in the funeral scene is that the other members of the circus have felt Pomni's exact feeling, and that their shared, genuine humanity gives them inherent meaning to each other. It's a reminder to practice some healthy detachment from even the most real feeling of fabrications, so you don't lose sight of actual human connection. I think it's really snazzy, but I also feel like I might be repeating myself at this point, so let me know in the comments if you're picking up what I'm putting down, and if you think this is a valid read on the episode. Also, I hope at least someone appreciates the Speed Racer reference. I just found out that movie's free on YouTube and I couldn't resist slipping it in. Go watch Speed Racer! I was naturally enthusiastic for episode 2 of TADC, but I didn't think that I would have as much to say about it as I do. This was actually supposed to be the next Kingdom Hearts video, but once I saw the episode, I knew that making this first would be easier. I honestly kinda fought with myself on doing a video about this show at all, cause it felt like trend chasing, but the itch to make this one wouldn't leave, so here we are. Leave a like and subscribe if you liked it, and I'll see you in the future.